All right, thanks. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Tom Reinauer. I am the Public Outreach and Planning Director at Maine DOT. We're one of the key partners in the Moving Maine network, and uh, we've got a great program this afternoon. Looking forward to it. We've got three great panelists coming up to talk about inclusive engagement. And I just want to let you know that we've got a small subcommittee that has been planning these events. It's myself, Kathleen Arabez. We've got Perry Ann Carpenter, and also from my shop, we've got technical assistance from Haley Jaramillo, and also Zoe and has been helping from GP Cog, and also Heather Drake, who's helping out under contract with the Moving Maine network. So hopefully you'll enjoy today, and I'm going to hand it over to either Zoe or Haley. Is Haley going to do kind of a technical logistics, or is that you, Zoe? Should ask that before. Sorry.
That's okay. I'm going to jump in with the logistics.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Tom. And I would just add that we know there are folks who are interested in getting involved with the peer learning and professional development work group. And so we'll be sending out a notice to join the first meeting in January. And if you haven't already expressed interest, please do let us know, and you can feel free to put that into the chat today. Um, so just a couple pieces of housekeeping for today. We are recording, and so the session will be available on the movingmaine.org webpage after today. We're really excited today to have a great panel with folks from um, different parts of the state, working with different types of folks who they're working to better engage. So that'll be the big chunk of our time today. Then we'll have some time where we'll put you into breakout rooms and we'll do some networking. And then we have time for sharing updates and information from around the state. So before we get started, I just wanted to say that we will be sending out the recording to folks after the meeting. We ask that people stay muted when not speaking, but we encourage people to have their cameras on, and the chat box is open, so you can send private chats to people, and you can also chat to the whole group if you have resources to share or comments you want to make. But just remember that the chat is not actually private, because we do keep a record of it after to be able to look at, and people can download it as well if they want a record of the chat. If you have any questions about technology, please put it into the chat and we'll do our best to help you. When we get to the end of the panel and we are ready to take questions, people can raise their hand virtually. If you've joined by phone only, you can do that by hitting *9. You can also put those questions in the chat box. And each time you speak, if you can please share your name, and so that way if folks are attending by phone only or have visual impairments, that they're able to follow along. So I'm going to stop the screen. Oh no, actually, sorry. I'm going to share just a couple of quick updates about Moving Maine before we jump into our panel. Sorry about that. So for folks who are new to the group, we are a statewide multi-sector mobility management network for all of Maine. And our focus is to support peer learning and professional development. And one of the pieces that we're planning to do going forward is to have an annual statewide meeting of partners that may happen virtually in 2021, and hopefully in person in the future. We also are facilitating the development and support for regional mobility management groups. And we know some of them are already out there and some are yet to be created. And so that's a part of what we want to do, so that no matter where you live in Maine, there's a group that you can tap into to work on local and regional solutions. We also want to convene stakeholders to spur innovation, to support new technologies, and to inform funding and policy changes. We believe that when we do these things, which are a lot of it is about building this social capital and like this relational infrastructure, but I think that what we're going for are these longer term outcomes where we want there to be a robust and active network of regional mobility management programs. We want to see state and local policies that are identified and adopted to improve transportation across the board and improve efficiency. We want to enable transportation providers in Maine to coordinate and share technology. And we want Maine to have an ongoing process for monitoring transportation and quality of life. So, I mean, we're really able to say, you know, how well are we doing with supporting people to have opportunity, to have good health, to have a good quality of life through our transportation investments. So currently we have a steering committee that includes a number of different organizations and individuals from those organizations. We also are, we're still actually in the process of building this steering committee, because what we envision is, you know, we want to make sure that we also have really great geographic representation. So over time, as we build regional networks, we will have representatives from those networks on the steering committee, and also to make sure that we are we're reflecting the diversity of the state, and that, you know, we're including and engaging people with lived experience of transportation challenges, that we have participation from the different racial and ethnic minorities in Maine. And we know we're not quite there yet, and we're looking, you know, we're looking to make that happen, and really we're looking for your help with it. So, you know, by being here today, you really, you know, you're becoming part of the network. We hope to have people involved on many different levels. And so on that note, before we move into the panel, just a few words on how to get involved with the network. That we are currently seeking mobility liaisons to join the network. And so that's a way of having people with lived experience be involved, who maybe don't have, aren't involved with an organization, but want to be, have a role in improving transportation. We have applications are due January 8th, and you can call me, you can email to do that. There's, you know, we can accept applications through an interpreter. So really there's, you know, we want to make that as easy as possible. And so we're looking for older adults, people with disabilities, people of color, other, you know, other folks from other underrepresented communities.
I'm on a Zoom meeting right now at a GP Cog.
Oh, somebody's not muted, and we can hear a side conversation if you want to just mute yourself. We would love your help also in getting the word out to people that we have this opportunity to be a mobility liaison. So please spread the word about that. We also are looking for people to get involved with the work groups. And, you know, I've already mentioned the peer learning and professional development work group. We also have a policy and advocacy work group and a technology and innovation work group, which actually just kicked off today. And ultimately, if you want to get involved with any of this, you can make a note in the chat box that you'd like to get involved. You can go to the movingmaine.org website and sign up. There's a place to click there to get involved, and you can send us a message that way. So we have next up, I'm actually going to stop sharing slides and invite our panelists, if they haven't already unmuted themselves, to do that. Or sorry, haven't turned on their video, if they would do that. We're going to have a little bit of a discussion with our panelists. We're going to let them tell you a bit about themselves. And then we are going to let our attendees ask questions if they have questions. And I think the breakout session that will follow the panel discussion will actually be, to some extent, a continuation and allow for further discussion. So while you're listening to the panelists, if you could just think about how might you apply some of what folks are sharing, and what do you have to share? I mean, I think everybody who's on this meeting today has some experience, my guess is, with engagement and with inclusive engagement, and has things to share. So we want to invite you in to share your own expertise. So I'm going to introduce our three panelists for today. And then we're going to let them talk a bit about the work they do, and then have a little bit of a conversation before going on to questions. So first up, we have Darcy Cook. Darcy is a community organizer with the grassroots nonprofit organization based in Bangor called Food and Medicine, or FAM. FAM organizes, educates, and empowers workers and all community members in the fight for economic and social justice. They work with unions, farmers, community groups, small businesses, and faith-based organizations to create solutions and positive change. Darcy moved to Bangor 4 years ago to complete a year of AmeriCorps service, during which time she learned about the good work of FAM and quickly became immersed in the group. She's having spent many years working low-wage jobs that didn't offer health insurance and having struggled with food and transit security herself, Darcy feels the importance of the FAM mission acutely. And she just recently joined the Moving Maine Steering Committee, and she's honored to be here today. So thank you so much, Darcy. Our second panelist is Charlie Martin-Berry. Charlie's the director of the Community Caring Collaborative, CCC, a partnership of over 50 organizations dedicated to expanding resources and opportunities that improve lives in Washington County. Charlie has participated in CCC as a community partner from 2008 to 2012, when she was the coordinator and lead teacher for Passages, a high school diploma program for young parents. She joined the staff in 2012 and became director in 2016. And since 2012, Charlie has supported the design, implementation, and funding efforts for Family Futures Down East, a 2-generation education and workforce opportunity for families in Washington County. She was designated in 2015 as a White House, that program was designated in 2015 as a White House Rural Impact Project, and has become a nationally recognized approach for helping children and parents succeed together. With CCC's mission to increase health, hope, and well-being for people in Maine, Charlie works to strengthen authentic collaboration, engage families in programs and policy design, and build public and private partnerships that allow meaningful service and opportunities to endure. Charlie's a John T. Gorman Leadership Fellow and serves on boards for Down East Community Partners and the University of Maine at Machias. And she spent her life in Down East Maine, mostly working in nonprofits she loves and taking time to be on the water with her family and her young kiddos. Her husband and her young kiddo, little daughter Raven, sorry. And then finally, we have Marcel Tagora, who I actually have the pleasure of working with at the Greater Portland Council of Governments, where he's a planning and outreach associate. The GPCOG is the regional planning agency for the Greater Portland region, and it's also home to the Metropolitan Planning Organization. So Marcel supports community outreach efforts that are helping to engage community members, groups, and organizations in transportation and land use planning. Marcel works primarily with GPCOG's Mobility for All program and very closely with the community transportation leaders, which you'll be hearing more about today. Marcel also plays a key role in supporting our compliance with civil rights mandates at GPCOG. And Marcel is a native of the Congo, and he has studied after his university studies, Marcel worked as an intern at the German international organization GIZ, where he worked with consultants to build community development plans for rural communities in Burundi. He has moved to Nashua, New Hampshire, just a few years ago, where he founded the African community of One Greater Nashua and worked as a community organizer. He has his BA in Communications for Development, and he's an alumni of the Leadership of Greater Nashua program and speaks French, Swahili, Kirundi, and Kinyarwanda, and I think actually probably a couple other languages too. And so what a great panel. And so what I wanted to do first is to invite each one of you to spend about 5 minutes just talking about your program and how it relates to improving transportation access. And so we're going to start off with Darcy. And yeah, if you want to talk about food and medicine and how you're involved with transportation access.
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everybody. Good to be here. My name's Darcy with Food and Medicine. And like she said in the introduction, our organization as a whole is really focused on workers' rights and on economic justice. About 7-8 years ago, we did a series of listening sessions around the community. And a thing that kept coming up over and over and over again in Bangor is that transit was a real barrier for a lot of people. A lot of our members are low-income community members. And we have a bus system here, but it's a very bare bones operation. And the hours in particular are quite limited. The bus generally stops running around 6 o'clock on weekdays, runs a split halftime schedule on Saturdays, and then not at all on Sundays. So a lot of people were saying it's difficult to get out and do their errands on their days off. It's difficult to get home from work, especially if you're working like a lot of low-income people do, hourly jobs such as restaurant work or some of the large box stores around here. You work shifts that go well past the times that the bus stops running. So we took that information and those members and formed a group called Transportation for All. It's been operating for around 7 years. As you know, I've only been with the group for about 3, but I think we've made tremendous strides in that time by just consistently going out and having that conversation with people in the community, with other community groups, and going to before the Bangor City Council over and over and over again, talking about the importance of improving our public transit system. I think that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Darcy. I'm going to go to Charlie now. And if you want to give us a little bit of background on your organization and how you're involved with transportation access.
Great, thanks Zoe, and thanks for the invitation today. It's really nice to be here. Zoe talked a little bit about the Community Caring Collaborative and really hit the nail on the head in terms of our work in Washington County. We've been established since 2007, really bringing organizations together to help address unmet needs for vulnerable community members here. And our work is focused on nurturing and sustaining collaboration that expands resources and opportunities and really improves health and well-being and hope. Like, that's the work. And with that, we recognize that there are just some really complex challenges that are only going to be solved through collaboration. And so we bring together community members to support those relationships and networking through just convening. We also commit to training and technical assistance to improve the skills and knowledge of the workers across those organizations in our partnership, and to build a set of shared values. So we train really constantly around understanding the impacts of poverty and substance use, understanding the impacts of trauma, and building cultural competencies. We do a lot of work to remove barriers for community members who have goals as well established, but often have financial obstacles in the way of reaching those goals. And lastly, and where it's really related to transportation, we do a lot of work around program incubation. So we work collaboratively to build programs in response to community members who are struggling under some pretty difficult issues. They're complex and co-occurring challenges often, and the way the CCC helps to address those is to really listen to the community members who are impacted for the solutions that would work, and then it's on us, right, to bring the partners together to bring those solutions to life. And our opportunity in this sort of transportation space came out of an offer from a funding partner who said, if you had some money to buy a couple minivans, would you want to like do that and build a transportation program? And first of all, I don't really want to own minivans. Like, our work is not necessarily to grow the program in terms of our own infrastructure, but it is to assemble the partners who know how to run minivans and hire drivers and that sort of thing. So I said, sure, that sounds like a great offer. Let's build a process for just getting a concept right. And we had to ask community members who has some of the greatest barriers around transportation access that need service now, like urgently. And we did develop a concept that would develop a responsive transportation service that would be something people could pay for themselves, or somebody could pay for the ride on their behalf. And then recognizing that's a concept that people said would work, and that community members impacted by substance use disorder were very much in need of transportation supports. We went to a funding partner and said, could we have some planning resources? And then in a second stage of this process, we've developed a full set of planning documents around a transportation program that would support community members impacted by substance use disorder. And it's not piloted yet. So I've said to Zoe and to Heather, are you sure you really want me as a panelist? Like, we aren't doing this yet. And they said, yes, we want you to share how you really engaged and prioritized community members with lived experience in the design work. And that we did. So we'll talk about that a little bit more, I think, in this conversation. And again, not piloting, aren't running minivans yet, but we will be, and we're excited to share where we're at so far.
Great, thank you, Charlie. So Marcel is up, and if you want to take a few minutes to talk about your work and how it relates to transportation access.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Marcel Tagora. I'm the Planning and Outreach Associate with the Greater Portland Council of Government. I feel honored to be here today and talk about inclusive engagement and how we keep our community transportation leaders engaged in the process. As the Planning and Outreach Associate, my work focuses on inclusive transportation planning or mobility for all. Through the Inclusive Transportation Planning Program, we engage older adult people, people with disabilities, people of color, and other underrepresented communities to advance their inclusion in the regional transportation planning and decision-making process. This group of underrepresented communities is known as community transportation leaders. So it's a group of 23 engaged and energized community transportation leaders, and also divided into 9 small groups based on transportation challenges or issue that they're of their preferences. When I joined the Greater Portland Council of Government in September 2019, the program was already underway, but I participated in the training for the community transportation leaders, when they gained their the knowledge and the tools, and they learned how to be involved in the transportation planning. And also at the end of the training, they did a presentation to PACT's executive committee, where they presented all their top transportation concerns, and that they said why those transportation concerns or issue were so important for them, and they proposed the solutions. From that day, after the presentation to PACT's committee, the group moved forward. The next step was just to focus on implementing those identified projects. So what we do with the community transportation leaders, we schedule or we conduct regular coaching sessions to help them implement their projects. And also we identify tasks and share updates about ongoing projects, so that this way we can keep them engaged. And also we adapt our communication method to their needs or abilities or learning styles or comfort level, depending on what we want to work on with them. And then this way we keep them engaged. We also try to lower all the barriers as possible to make sure they are fully engaged. We work closely with this group of underrepresented communities to support them, but we make sure they own their project. That's how we make them, we help them to be independent. It's good to mention this, that everything that is being done, it's a part of a larger effort of Greater Portland Council of Government and the Portland Area Comprehensive Transportation System Pact, to advance the inclusion of underrepresented communities in the decision-making program. So the overall goals of the program is just, we focus on helping or supporting community transportation leaders to gain the knowledge and the tools needed for a meaningful participation in the transportation planning decision-making. We also help them, we provide a peer-to-peer network to assist them in act towards achieving their goals. And also we enable them, we enable decision makers to hear directly from participants, like community transportation leaders, to present to them the needs, because they have lived experience and they are somehow left behind. And also they work as a gateway to participation in transportation system. So we do everything to help them to be independent, and then to keep them engaged by making them independent and setting their own goals, but remaining in the supporting role. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Marcel. So really with all of these projects, you can hear how you have brought people to the table who haven't necessarily been included in planning and decision-making in the past, haven't been included adequately, or maybe not at all. And so I think it would be great to hear a bit more about the specific audiences. So I wanted to start with Charlie, and have you talk a bit about how your group engaged with and prioritized the needs of people affected by substance use disorder?
Sure, thanks, Zoe. When our initial concept planning for a transportation program began, the work was around really identifying community members with major barriers to transportation. And we convened, the CCC convened a working group to help us get at who who that population might be with really urgent needs and great barriers. And that included, so we brought together folks who could represent community members impacted by substance use disorder. We brought a partner to the table who could help connect us to and represent low-income families. Another partner represented seniors and older residents who may have transportation barriers. And across about a year, we listened to the expertise of those community members who also went out into the community or into their respective professional settings to get more information from those specific populations. And we also listened to transportation service providers to say, what are you able to deliver and where are the gaps? So at the end of that process, what really rose to the surface for us was that, yes, absolutely, seniors and low-income families and youth have transportation barriers, but the population whose access to transportation just seemed so urgent was absolutely the community members who are impacted by substance use disorder, because what they shared with us in the engagement work around concept design was that without a ride, things really fall apart. Like not being able to get to mandated appointments, not being able to get to toxicology sort of screening appointments or drug court or appointments with the Department of Health and Human Services and Child Welfare could mean that you're going to be incarcerated again, or it could mean you're not going to reunify with your child, or it could mean a loss of employment and just real domino effect for things falling apart. So we learned from community members impacted by substance use disorder that a lot is riding on rides. And so the team chose to really prioritize this population. And the members of the planning team, there were members of this concept planning team with lived experience, a low-income mom in early recovery who had so many transportation barriers, a business partner in long-term recovery who was able to share a lot of lived experience about early recovery and transportation challenges. He also had a little bit of cab driver experience too, so he brought a lot of insights to our group. When we picked that concept and that population where some kind of really flexible transportation service where people could pay for rides or somebody could pay for them on their behalf, that really focused on community members with substance use disorder, we knew we needed to also develop a plan, like a real plan that would give us strategies and build out a budget and policies and a logic model and all of those details. And that team also included community members and professional partners with lived experience across sectors. So social services, business, community members who were navigating all those challenges themselves, as well as transportation providers with all the expertise that we don't have about how to really run transportation programs. So those community members, every single one of those people on the planning committee had some connection to people impacted by substance use disorder, or were in fact in recovery themselves, and so just could just offer so much insight in terms of the practical solutions that we needed to build out. We continued with focus groups that gave us really important data on how to build effective strategies around flexible transportation, around training drivers to be compassionate and knowledgeable. And so both those levels of community input and decision making on the planning team helped us build strong capacity for prioritizing the needs of community members impacted by substance use disorder in the transportation program.
Thank you, Charlie. Wow, I want to see all your plans and your logic models and everything. I have a feeling that we're going to have a presentation in the future just on that work. So I wanted to go to Marcel now. And so your work is often with people from immigrant and refugee backgrounds. Can you talk a bit about some of the strategies for keeping people involved, getting people involved, keeping them involved?
Thank you very much. Engaging, for me, I take engagement as a process of involving community members in a conversation that bears decisions that can affect or in which they are interested. These decisions that are being made affect people. So when we do the engagement, I always keep in mind that everyone is different, and also I focus on inclusion and equitable participation. The people that we engage, they have history that is, they haven't been engaged in their countries. So we start by building partnership, because when we understand that everyone is different, then we see that they have different perspectives, different life experience, and different education. So we build partnership and we keep our communication alive. Sometimes people, we focus on keeping communication alive, connecting even when we don't want to engage, so that we can build this trust. Because when we have trust, that's when we are able to talk to people, not as someone, a known person, but as a partner. And also we focus on knowing our audience. When we engage this specific category of people, underrepresented people, that's when we know how to tailor and adjust our methods of communication to them, because when we know our audience. So we have a diverse group that we engage because they have different abilities. That's why we tailor our method of communication to their needs. We use text messages. We use WhatsApp. We use emails, because some people don't even use emails. But we use these tools because we know them, and then we use them, this communication method, to keep them engaged, to keep connecting. Sometimes people may tend to engage when they want something, but when you always talk to people and show them that you can even check on them, ask them how they are doing, this is something that builds trust. And also, we always go offer extra support. When we talk to people, we understand them, and then they see that we are willing to help, even when they feel like there are something that they are not able to do. We are there to provide support. We provide, for instance, when people are trying to use Zoom, they don't have they don't have computer or laptops to join the meetings. So we provide the calling number, and also we always keep providing, offering support when needed. And also the other thing, we build partnership with community leaders, because when it's hard to reach people in the communities, but sometimes we can reach them through their leaders. When we build connection and a good relationship with different community leaders, we can reach those people from their leaders, because when you are trusted by their leaders, then you get trusted too by the public that you are willing to reach. Again, it's very important to keep frequent communication, not just only when we want to reach to them. Another thing that I saw that is important is that having a bilingual staff, if you are a company or if you are an organization, and having a bilingual staff, it's also a good thing to use, to leverage, because I saw that my presence to the Greater Portland Council of Government, was like, it helped the Greater Portland Council government to reach like immigrant communities, people who are hard to reach. And through me, when they see a person, I came in the US as a refugee, and then I understand what it means not to be involved or included in a given activity that is going on, or any project, or when you are left behind. So being someone, seeing someone who are working for a given organization, telling people they see someone like them, then it builds a kind of confidence, trust. So we keep people engaged by communicating with them, constantly communicating with them and showing them that we are here and offering support that they need. Those who cannot attend from the laptop or link a meeting, then we provide the calling number, and then we keep this communication alive.
Thank you, Marcel. So Darcy, I think before we go to questions from the audience, I wanted to come back to you and have you talk about how in your work, you include people with lived experience of transportation barriers, but you also make sure that you're including people who aren't currently using public transportation. Can you talk a bit about why this combination of voices is important?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's been a really a powerful combination for our group in our advocacy work, particularly in our situation here in Bangor, where we have a public bus system. It's just very lacking. And I think there's two reasons why this has been really effective doing it this way. The first is I kind of visualize it in my head as like a bullseye method of communication, where we focus with the bus riders in the center. And I was sort of a natural fit to organize this group because I have been a bus rider in Bangor for 2.5 years. I just recently got a vehicle. So I really was able to just jump in and communicate with our core team, who is all bus riders. And you know, these are the people that really know the logistics of day in, day out riding the bus, and what the difficulties are and where the places for really good improvement are. So those are the people at the very center that you have saying, yes, you know, I work a night job so I can get to my job, but I can't get home from work without shelling out money for a cab or an Uber or walking or bumming rides. You know, I can't run my errands on Sunday because everything's closed. Yeah, I can't, I'm in school, but I can't attend any night classes because I don't have a reliable transportation to get to and from the classes. So those voices are front and center. But then if we include the people outside of that bullseye in the sphere, like the employer who has multiple staff members who rely on the bus to get to and from work, or, you know, one of our members is a UMA Bangor professor, and she's spoken several times about how many students she has that are missing out on learning opportunities because they don't have adequate transportation, and how frustrating that is for her and for them. And she doesn't have a good solution to offer them, you know? And, you know, the list goes on. Faith leaders who have congregation members who can't attend services on Sundays. And so when you kind of step back and look at the people outside of the bus riders, I think you really get a much richer picture of how intertwined public transit really is in our whole community, and how much it affects not just the bus riders, but the people in their sphere, the people that rely on them. And I find it to be really empowering because it creates more of a reciprocity. We're seeing not just like, oh, these people are transit dependent, but we're all dependent on these transit dependent people as well. So it's really, it just opens up that conversation and builds that web out in such a more clear way when you have all these different voices in the community. So that's one reason. But the other reason is really a much more practical one, which is that these decisions always come down to money. In the end, it's like, what are we going? We have this limited pool of money. What do we see as a worthy investment in our city? And when we first started Transportation for All, we'd go to the city staff and say, we'd really like to see expanded bus hours. And they would say, the ridership is not really high enough to justify investing in expanded hours. And then we would say, well, the ridership isn't really high enough because we don't have these expanded hours. So the bus is difficult for a lot of people who would maybe otherwise use it to use. And that argument coming from the people who are currently using the bus makes sense. But if we get some more people in the room who are backing us up and saying, yeah, I care about climate change, I would love to have public transportation be my primary source of transit. Or, I'm in a one-car household and it would be so great if we could use the bus some days, but the hours that it operates right now just don't fit our schedules. When you get those people joining in on the conversation, it really sort of helps bolster our argument that the public transportation system is a really worthy investment for our city.
Thank you so much, Darcy. So I wanted to turn the questioning over to participants now. If people have questions in mind that they want to ask, and you can put your hand up virtually. And I want to, anybody have a question coming to mind that they want to throw out there? Okay, everybody's being shy, but Brendan, go ahead.
Thanks, Zoe. So I had a question for Charlie, and Charlie, maybe you said this and I didn't catch it in my notes. Did you say that how long did you say the assessment process was to kind of get a feel for what the transportation network looked like in your neck of the woods?
So the two-part sort of concept design and assessment process, it took us like 9 to 12 months. And this is a while back. This is pre-pandemic. This is a while back where we spent a good, the winter listening to both transportation providers and community members with transportation barriers. And that took a chunk of time. The planning process took us another 9 months where we really got into the nitty-gritty to build solutions based on the input from that assessment and concept development work.
Zoe, this is Judy Shanley. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go
please?
for it.
To all your panelists, thank you. This was great. So informative and so exciting. Do any of you reach out to other federal agencies and state agencies for funding for your service? I know some of you are still in pilot, but non-DOT audiences to support the investment in transportation. Are you thinking about that at all?
I'll take a quick stab at that, and I'll see if either of you guys have something burning that you want to say. Our group is, well, we're not a state-funded group. We're a grassroots nonprofit, so we don't actually, do the funding side of things. We're an advocacy group. But a big part of that is, like I was just saying, like proving that it's a worthy investment and helping find those new revenue sources for our public transit system. And a thing that they just recently did a study of our transit system. It was completed at the end of 2019, laid out a 10-year timeline for improvements. And one of the things that came up over and over again was partnership with small businesses and large businesses. If businesses can offer employee benefit programs that encourage their employees to ride the bus, that can really go a long way in helping bolster ridership and awareness of that service and that availability.
That's great. Always thinking about return on investment. I wrote that in the chat. We have a tool that I could send to Zoe. It's a tool for employers to assess the investment in transportation versus not investing in transportation and what are the economic implications for their business. So I'll send that to Zoe, but thank you. Charlie, how about you? Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to offer, like, listening to people with lived experience and including people with lived experience as decision makers in a planning process, that resulted in a transportation program that will provide door-to-door transportation services for community members who are impacted by substance use disorder by drivers that are substance use informed. They're skilled drivers who can offer supports to passengers that will improve outcomes for those riders beyond the destination itself, right? The experience of the ride is intended to support outcomes for the passengers, and getting safely where you need to go is also a priority. But that sort of transportation as a service concept that really has equity in mind for a vulnerable population is something that we think will have a few different funding possibilities. One, and we've identified 3 partners to pilot with, and each of those partners will sort of come with different sort of funding strategies. One, like Darcy's talking about, is a business partner who said it's absolutely worth it for us at Machias Duncan to just pay for the rides for our staff who can't get to work. And we are willing to test if that really will pay off for us, because no-shows are costly. And so that we're going to just have a kind of a third-party payer where the Machias Duncan will pay for rides. Similarly, Healthy Acadia, that has a number of recovery programs, will look for various resources in-house to help pay for rides for their participants in their recovery coach program. And lastly, this one is interesting. I think it will involve a partnership with the state of Maine, where residents in a recovery house, in a recovery residence for women and children in Machias, it's called Safe Harbor, will have access to this program in its pilot stage, where we think we will be able to develop a partnership with the state of Maine to help support their transportation needs. So those are 3 strategies: sort of a state partnership, a business partnership, and some sort of voucher-based rides. And then there's just fares, like people will pay for rides, like fee for service.
Yeah, that's great. That's that diversifying the way that the service is supported will lead to sustainability. There's just something, I don't know if you all know about, there's something going on nationally. The Federal Transit Administration has this effort called the Coordinating Council on Access and Mobility, CCAM, and I'll send information about it, but there's just a really big push now for other federal agencies outside of the Department of Transportation to support transportation. So now is the best time to knock on the door of HHS and SAMHSA and Department of Labor and Department of Education and say, hey, here's this federal effort that is encouraging coordination across all these federal agencies to support transportation. So it's the timing of all what you're doing is perfect.
Hey, Zoe, we did have one question come through our chat box, and anyone can take this.
Yeah, and Haley, it's a little hard to, your audio's a little muffled.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay. Any advice regarding how to identify and include people that need transportation services, but who have not asked or are unaware of your services?
Yeah, so maybe Marcel, do you want to respond to this one?
Yeah, sure. I would suggest it's always, everything happens through our partnership. You are in this given area and then try to build partnership in the community and send out emails. You can reach people through your partners that you wouldn't be able to achieve by yourself. But when you privilege partnership, then you send out information. You can use emails from your partners, and then other people can refer those people to you. This is how we were able to build this team of community transportation leaders. It was through partnership and also sending, putting information on your website people can view those information and then respond back when you expose those information and you show people that you are willing them to respond.
And Marcel, would you want to name a few of the examples of the partners that you've worked with, like some of the organizations or the types of organizations, just to give people a specific?
We have a community-based organization. Those are communities. We have Congolese communities, and we have Rwandan community. We have Welcome Immigrant Center. We have Portland Adult Education. We have Portland High School. We have other organizations like Avesta. We have Gateway Community Services here in Portland. Those are kind of different organizations and different churches. We also engage through pastors. We connect with them because they have this congregation where they can just share those information. And most of those organizations, people have group WhatsApp. And then when you connect with one person and then you build up trust, they relay your information to reach the big public behind the leaders. Because when you reach community leaders or someone who is the admin of the WhatsApp group, then when you share any information, he shared the information to reach so many people behind the scene.
Well, thank you so much, Marcel, Darcy, and Charlie. I'm sure that we are leaving people with more questions. I'm going to move us on to the breakouts, and I have Haley working behind the scenes to split us up into breakout groups. We are going to be split up into groups of 3 or 4 people. And we're going to have, so hopefully at least one person in your group remembers these prompts. So I just put up a slide with some prompts. So basically what we want to do is in the time that you'll have, so you'll have about 10 to 12 minutes, we want to go around the virtual room there and have you each get to share your name and your organization or your community, and to talk about what are some ways you think you'll apply what you've heard from the panelists, and then share inclusive engagement practices that you have that came to mind as you were listening. So share some of your wisdom with the rest of the group. As I said, we're going to have about 10 to 12 minutes for this. When we come back as a full group, we'll have another 10 to 15 minutes for just sharing out around the state. So just keep that in mind, that if you run out of time in your group, you'll have another opportunity to share with the larger group. And with that, I think I'm gonna have Haley go ahead and break us out.
You all should have been invited to join your breakout rooms.
I was gonna hang back to talk to you for a minute, Haley.
Yeah, no problem. Did you want me to broadcast the questions to all of the rooms?
That would be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a little panic moment there where I couldn't share the slides, but you were on it.
All right, 1 second.
Yeah, I'm just going to stay out of a breakout room just so I have a minute to catch my breath. But I thought that was good.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
It's always so hard to gauge like how much time is enough, but not too much. Like I think we could have used more time, but hey, Will.
Hi. Do you want to put me in a breakout room or should I stay here?
Oh, did it not?
I dropped out right at the moment the breakout rooms were created.
Oh, okay. So I don't
Let
know.
me put you in one real quick.
Okay.
Okay.
You should have an invitation now.
All right. I do. Thank you.
Great.
Good. Thank goodness you're here.
Sometimes it happens.
Well, it's good. I mean, with our meetings at GPCog, we try to always have somebody who is producing. So we always, having that like tech person. And actually, what happens to the recording? Is it recording us right now, I wonder?
I believe it's weird when you look at it back once it's all done, but it will like be segmented. It
Okay.
records all the rooms.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I wonder if what I might do is just have Tom, who's our, like, he does our video stuff. He's our public information officer. Maybe just have him edit it so the breakout rooms just get cut out completely.
Yeah.
I think that's the better way to go. Yeah.
All right, so I'm broadcasting all the questions to the rooms. I'm going to mute myself, and what time did you want to call it? Like,
Yeah, so we have until, gosh, what time is it? So we have like 10 minutes,
okay.
2:10, if you can.
So at 2:10, I will close the rooms and we'll bounce back, and then I will switch you back to the host.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem. All right, so you should be the host again. Everything's recording. Breakout rooms will be back in like 30 seconds. It just gives them a 60-second countdown.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope people got to have some good meaty conversations there in the breakout rooms. We have a little bit more time in our network gathering today. And thank you for sticking around. We would love to go kind of around the virtual room and hear what people have to share, whether it's just who you are and what you do and why you're here, or if you have an update, something you want everybody to know about that's happening or that you need help on. If we can keep these to like about 2 minutes, that would be great, because it'll allow for more people to get to do it. And I think we have a small enough number of people that so now I can like see everybody on the screen. If you just want to put your hand up, you're welcome to raise your hand virtually, but if you want to just raise your hand physically, if you would like to go. And I'm going to pick on Kathleen, actually, Kathleen Arabez, to go first, if you're ready. So if you're ready to go, Kathleen, go for it.
Sure. I'm Kathleen Arabez, and I'm the owner principal of AKA Navigation, which is a small consulting service that works with housing, service coordinators, and property managers. But I also work with municipalities to connect their community members to community resources. So I was in a breakout room with one other person, and we were talking about how housing is often a challenge, but it's also got something to offer the community. So very often housing communities are able to put something in their budget for transportation or for a service coordinator. But you have to learn the language of the housing owner, which is never about doing the right thing, but their turnover, less damage to their property, less conflict among residents, kind of thing. So that's how I'll use the information I got from the panelists today in trying to get the service coordinators to engage in venues like this so that they can make things happen in their properties.
Great.
Is that what you were looking for, Zoe?
Yeah, thank you, Kathleen. So who'd like to go next? Who has something to share or just wants to introduce themselves to the group? Connie, go.
I'll go, Zoe. I am Connie Reed, and I'm a transportation planner in Brewer, Maine with Bangor Area Comprehensive Transportation System. And I am very happy to see Darcy Cook on here, because when the call went out for new membership, I called Zoe and I said, I'm not sure if this is what you're looking for, but I know somebody up here that I think would be perfect. And she said, oh, Darcy's already on the list. So thank you very much for presenting today, all our presenters, and everything you do for advocating for transit.
Thank you, Connie. other info folks want to share? Oh, Sue, go ahead.
Okay, I thought this was really wonderful today. And what I wrote down first that I think is going to be my major takeaway is the idea that without rides, things fall apart. I mean, that was just really powerful. Then the idea of transportation is a service, and this service needs to be built upon the needs of the community. So the dialogue has to be developed with the community, and the community needs to be listened to. Those are really four awesome things.
Great.
So thank
And
you.
do you want to just say who you are, Sue? So other
Okay.
folks.
I'm Sue Henderson. I'm from South Portland. I'm on the city council, and I'm also working with Age Friendly South Portland and AARP. We're an AARP city, and we focused on the needs of the senior citizens in our city and those who don't drive anymore. But I can see this as much bigger than that, you know. I think this applies to our homeless population, that we plop them in a motel or something and then assume that they have to figure out how to get everywhere themselves. You know, I mean, this is a very reality insightful based workshop. So thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Who else would like to go? Sarah.
Hi. No, I'm not on mute. Hi, I'm Sarah Devlin. I'm the executive director at BAX. I work with Connie. And before I came to BAX, I actually worked with Zoe and Marcel in Portland. And I just want to just speak 1 second about the work that Zoe and Marcel did with the community transportation leaders, because I was fortunate enough to be part of that. And it was honestly probably a highlight of my career. I learned so much doing that work, and please tell all the leaders I said hi and I miss them. But if you haven't had an opportunity to look at that effort and look into what that that process was, I would highly encourage it, because as a transportation staff MPO, as I said in my great breakout room, one of the challenges and kind of missions that we have is that transportation can be really complicated. The funding can be complicated. It's that complication becomes a barrier for people to get involved, because it can be very overwhelming, and it can almost seem like there's no point in it because it's too confusing. So one of the challenges and one of the things that I really hope to bring to the Bangor area is trying to break down some of those barriers so that people feel comfortable and confident in talking about their transportation needs. And I look forward to working with Darcy as well. I did get to meet her a little bit virtually a couple weeks ago, and I think she made a really excellent point that a lot of times we focus on existing users rather than trying to understand the barriers of why people aren't users when they could be. So trying to kind of understand what we can do as officials to encourage more use. So thank you again for this. This is really great. I miss you, Zoe.
Thank you, Sarah. And I actually just I just put into the chat the link to where you can find the overview and the curriculum guide to community transportation leaders. We piloted it last year, and so we're still really learning. But I think that, you know, it's a model that could be easily picked up and used in other places. And I'm sure Marcel, I could speak for Marcel and myself that we would love to support other folks to do it. I think I see, and actually speaking of community transportation leaders, I see Mary Kabongo has her hand up. I don't know, were you just waving to Sarah? Did you want to share with us?
Yeah, I want to introduce myself. My name is Mireille Kabongo. I am a community transportation leader with the GPCOR. And last year we had the community transportation leaders training, and the goal was to make us be in the same group, in the same room with the decision maker. And then the group was very strong and inclusive. We had elder, person of disability, and people of color. In the end of the training, and we went in the same room with the decision maker, and we reached the goal. But that's 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 mean that we have a chance to speak about ourselves, to speak about our berry, and this is a good opportunity for us. That's why I'm very glad to be here, and I want also to say thank you to everybody, because transportation here in Maine is a big issue. We need to fix it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mireille. Yeah, Mireille does an amazing job of speaking out from the perspective of someone who uses paratransit, who has a lot of experience with, just has lived experience, and then also is able to reach out to her peers and is really doing an amazing job. So thank you, Mireille, for all you're doing. Who else would like to share? Mary Ellen.
Hi, I'm Mary Ellen Barnes. I work with Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission, and I'll just be brief, but I certainly thank everyone for presenting today. And I'll probably be catching up with Charlie because our county is a little smaller than Washington County. And so I'm kind of intrigued with how you might be setting some geography goals in terms of trying to work through the county. Right now, we don't have public transit besides Concord Trailways, thank you. So it's an issue that in the years that I've been here that we've circled back 2 or 3 times to try to create the capacity and the momentum for this. And Kathleen knows it pretty well, living in one end of the peninsula. So I'm just inspired by what I've learned today, and thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Abby.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abby Frucci. I'm the Substance Use Response Coordinator with Community Caring Collaborative. So I work closely with Charlie and have been working on this transportation design. And I just so appreciate all of the presenters today. I think an overarching theme has been around just the necessity to include lived experience in the voice of community members that are impacted by these transportation barriers, and also bridging that with those partners that are can have some movement in the decision making, whether it's the municipalities or our funding partners, but having those siloed community members that experience the barriers and then the decision makers over here, I think that's one of our biggest barriers in transportation services. So I just wanted to thank everyone, and also just a great opportunity to network and meet people working in transportation. My work is in focus in substance use response. Transportation comes up over and over again as one of the primary barriers that those community members face. And so meeting all of you today and the work that you're doing across the state has just been great. So thank you.
Well, thank you for being here, Abby, and thank you for that kind of perfect plug for why we have this network forming, because we know that transportation impacts so many other sectors. And so our hope is really that we can make a table, virtual table, real table eventually again, hopefully, but we can make a table for people to come around. We know there's so much amazing work going on all around the state. And so, the idea is to create a space where people can share on that, share their resources. So we have time for probably 1 or 2 more folks if they want to share. Anybody want to? Sarah Cushman. Sorry, we have a couple Sarahs.
Good name. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for this, and thanks for carrying this work along. It's my first meeting, so it's like Gabby said, it's a really lovely opportunity to meet folks across the state and see friends across the state. And Darcy, I totally want to know where the transit study ended up. And the panel discussion about engagement, it's one of those things I told Zoe I was taking a walk with a neighborhood friend this summer, and I work for myself but I also consult with Go Maine, the statewide commuter assistance program. And I walk and bike and take the bus and carpool in non-COVID times a lot. But I was taking a walk with a neighborhood friend who was all excited to show me her new second car because they were moving off the peninsula in Portland. I'm based in Portland. And because she works at the shelter till midnight, so she had been able to walk home to Kennedy Park for years, but they were about to change that. And she, I'm sure, is probably not going to become a bicycle rider overnight, and there's no transit service to get her home. And it's just like, what are the stories? Like, I know I have my own lived experience, multimodal lived experience, but I know there's so many pieces that I don't know, right? It's like, you know how much you don't know. And so I just really appreciate the work folks are doing and getting to learn from you. And your stories, Marcel and Darcy and Charlie, remind me, I was just listening to something last week where they said, what if we designed a whole system around the most vulnerable of us, right? Like, what if our pedestrians were our primary responsibility, not cars through traffic? Or what if getting folks to all these appointments that are so critical to move one's life forward in recovery, like what if that was our, right, baseline? Like, that's what we're going to meet, that, and everything else would fall into place. So anyway, thanks you guys.
Thank you, Sarah. And I think that's actually kind of a perfect note to wrap up on that. You know, I think that this effort really is about how do we elevate the needs of people who have more barriers to transportation. And, you know, I'm a big believer in you know, that when we make it better for the folks who are most vulnerable, we ultimately do make it better for everybody. So if we lead with addressing those needs, we're gonna make a better all around environment. We are just about out of time, and I know there were some really great shares in the chat. I just learned actually recently that if you click the ... in the chat, you get the option of saving the chat to your own computer, and then you can go back and see those resources, as well as any one-on-one chats that happen. So that's like the word of caution. So our next all network gathering is will be in March of 2021. We would love to hear, we will be sending out a kind of give us your feedback on today, and we would love to hear ideas on what you'd like to hear at the next all network gathering. We hope you will spread the word, because again, you are the network. So every time we bring people to the table, we're building the network, and we're benefiting from that because we're learning from each other, and we're making those relationships that are going to allow us to do more together. So please, you know, stay involved and stay in touch. And I wanted to give a big thank you to our three amazing panelists today, Darcy, Charlie, and Marcel. I feel like I learned so much from each of you, and just, yeah, excited to watch what continues to happen with the initiatives that you're involved with. So we will have a recording available of today's session, and we'll email that out to you when it's ready, and it'll also be posted on the website. And so you can feel, you know, so I think if you want to share that with other folks, you can feel free to do that. Thank you all, and I hope you stay safe and have a healthy, you know, stay safe and healthy through this time that we're all living through. That's definitely unusual and difficult. So have a good rest of your day, everybody. Take care.